Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Range Rover Velar. A Range Rover that doesn't look that much different at first sight from the other Range Rover models, but I can tell you it basically redefines the definition of luxury at Range Rover. I will tell you why in this full review on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars with Thomas. Here today in really British and German weather, so good conditions here to test a British car, an exterior, interior with a lot of surprises, and of course the driving experience in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! In the front, very interesting daytime running LED lights signature, but also full LED lights from standard equipment, optional then with matrix LED for the high beam. This dark front grille is because we have this R dynamic pack here today. Also dark writing, we'll also see some other elements like this contrasting to this dark blue tone color. You'll also see it at the side profile, this R dynamic design package you can have to get a little bit more sporty touch to the vehicle. Other than that, it's an SE trim you can see here today. What do you think of the front? It's really round and it's very seamless and a little bit more subtle and sporty than the very big Range Rovers. 4.80 m or 15'7" is the total length of the Range Rover Velar, and pretty strange because it's only 7 cm longer than the Jaguar F-Pace and 5 cm shorter than the Range Rover Sport. So I wasn't really sure why they did this vehicle because it doesn't differ that much in the length, but it does in many other aspects that are also coming up in the review. Other than that, the design here with those contrasts in copper color looks pretty spectacular. 17 to 21 inch rims, those ones here are 20 inch in black together with winter tires. Then the typical Range Rover design, but here it's flatter and also falling down more towards the rear. Interesting also those door handles, you can press them, then they come out and you can then control them. It's a nice emotional feature, but also one of those elements where you can think, is it maybe overdone? What is your opinion on that one? And in general, when you rate this one here against the other Range Rovers, do you like this one best? I think for sure a very modern tech style design. And to the rear, LED taillights, again in this squircle form, Velar badge right there. Also here in the dark frame for the very sporty look again. You've also seen the dark frame around the windows, horizontal stress right there. And you can see this sporty wing up there too. The platform, by the way, the very same than the Jaguar F-Pace with the all-new aluminum platform that saves weight. And so those are basically siblings too. The hatch opens below here. There it is, electric tailgate here. And let's see when it closes. What about child safety? Whoa, that's really strong. That should be a little bit more sensitive. And we'll look inside the trunk after the interior part. You voted that last time. So there's the engine part. There are quite some engines available. This 3-liter V6 diesel with 300 horsepower. D300, then there's also D240, 2-liter with 4 cylinders, 240 horsepower, or also with 180 horsepower. And petrol side, going also from strong to weak, 3-liter 6-cylinder, 380 horsepower, or the 2-liter 4-cylinder with 300 horsepower or with 250. Well guys, before we start with the usual interior part, let me just stress, this is a big moment for me. Because you've maybe already read that Gary McGovern, the design director of Land Rover, and you hardly hear such transparent quotes from high-ranking managers in the automotive industry. He said himself he does not like it when cows are being slaughtered for seats for Land Rovers or Range Rovers. But here, this one is a paradigm shift for a traditional British brand, which has been using leather so often and so in abundance, and still does. But this vehicle, they want to change it, for example, with this special interior option. I will also explain it to you. And I mean, it's not only me saying it anymore, and I was saying it 4 years ago, and then I got more and more support also from you. It was so important to me to get thousands of messages saying, finally someone mentions it, that producing cars should not have anything to do with using animals for anything. And now also more and more managers from the automotive industries realize it and do something about it. So we have to do something about it together. No matter which animals are being used, cars should be free of animals. Why should you use it in any way? I think that's already a big step forward here. Let's take a look at the interior, and wow, it begins here at the inside of the doors. It's very interesting. It's basically a soft, bright structure. You see, you can touch it, and also has a structure you can feel on the top part. Then this is Scandinavian style with a grey fabric. It also looks living room alike. Meridian sound system. Then some space in the inside of the doors, memory seating function, and wow, what a bright welcome we see here too. This one here is the velour or microfiber steering wheel, digital gauges. Standard would be analog gauges. It has a lot of standard equipment: Bluetooth, 2-zone, AC, analog displays first, steel suspension. Then this 10.2-inch screen you'll soon see at the center is also standard, keyless entry standard. Then normal standard seats would be inside with velour or microfiber, and outside then the leatherette. But those ones here are the optional quadrat seats. This is a premium textile package you can get for all trim levels then, because otherwise S, SE and HSE would be suited with animal skin. But for all of those, this one is SE today, for example, you can get this package, and this is really amazing. Look at that, this fabric on the outside, microfiber here, and the inside part is also, let's say, microfiber alike, but a little bit softer, and it's 70% from recycled plastic bottles and 30% from wool. Yeah, wool is still animal origin. You can also have that better, as seen at my jacket, for example, is also not wool, but looks like wool, but it's such a big step ahead away from the full leather, and it looks amazing, it feels amazing, and I think it's a totally new strategy here at Range Rover. Let's get inside, and indeed you still have the so-called command driving position, the upright seating position. It feels like being in a big Range Rover, just a little bit less, so you feel that it's not that bulky than, for example, a Range Rover Sport. You can somewhat compare it with the Jaguar F-Pace, it's also on the same platform, but then again, this one here feels more adult than the Jaguar F-Pace. The seating position is really comfortable. As I said earlier, you can also stay with the base seats. The seat form will also be fine. But here, those ones here with the premium textile package by Quadrat, I mean, you can drive hours and hours and hours and will not get any back pain. This is also, what would be my favorite part of this car, this comfort. So really superb. The steering wheel can be adjusted electronically. Let me put on the ignition for that. Here also towards you in the reach. It's also possible, so you can find a very good driving position. There's no panoramic roof built in here. You can get it optional. Then headroom, well, it's plenty still left. I'm 1.86 or 6'1", and I really find myself very well positioned here. So for tall drivers, definitely thumbs up. All electric here, by the way, by the seats, and you can even lengthen the front area. And the car is also saying, I got the ignition on and the door is open. Doesn't like that. Here again, putting the seat a little bit longer or putting it back again. Nice function. Here, there's the wool look without animal origin, so it's also possible. Well, here the interior overview. First of all, the black part here on top, little soft touch here, a little harder here, but it has this nice structure, premium-alike. We know that from other Range Rover models. Then the screen, you can see it tilts a little bit towards you, that you can better read it. This 10.2-inch screen is standard then too. Just the digital gauges are optional. Here again, what we've seen in the inside of the doors, soft touch, and it looks great, feels great. Wow, just fantastic that they try some different stuff out here. A second screen below that, for example, for climate stuff, seating, and also off-road modes. Soon more deals to that. Below that, you can pick the off-road modes, but you can also use it, for example, for the climate control. How that one works, I'll show you again. And there was also this difference. When I shut it off, it looks like there's nothing here, you know? Just this, this, and this, and everything else is basically the screen behind it. So, wow, that's really astonishing. The question is, of course, always, what do you say? Is it too complicated? Is it too much? Is it over-engineered? Same with, for example, the new big Audis. You have to judge that for yourself. Then the nice velour or microfiber steering wheel. With the same, the buttons became just visible when you turn on the ignition, and it has a good grip. It gives you the typical Range Rover feeling, and I just like it when it's, warm in winter times and not that hot in summer times. That same counts for the seat as for the steering wheel. Typical Range Rover columns here. So you do also with this, setup of the console, it tells you I am sitting in a Range Rover. It's just even more modernly interpreted. Instruments, all digital here if you want so, it's optional. And then left side speed with a digital speedometer, and also the aerodynamic design, and in the middle part you can have the driving mode information, for example, or also GPS information. So for the top part of the screen, you have, for example, GPS, media and phone. You can connect your phone via Bluetooth, and the alternative would be using the in-control apps. You have to activate the app or install the app on your smartphone. You can zoom also in the GPS. I can show you. This is how it looks like. It works quite fast. It's the best ones I've seen in Jaguar Land Rover so far. It's pretty hard to display as well. It's a glass display, so sometimes you will have to clean it too. And here we go with the in-control apps. This little bit like the other smartphone mirroring systems. You can then have your music there. It also looks a little bit like the CarPlay, for example. But you have your contacts there, but you don't have like recent or last calls. And sometimes the connection to the in-control apps malfunctions. So overall, I'm not really profound of this solution. They should just go along like everyone else and offer the standard smartphone integration features. And now this lower part is really particularly interesting. You can pick driving modes like this with a touchscreen, but you can also use this turning wheel, for example, to set the off-road modes, so then the all-wheel drive and the traction control reacts accordingly. Also nice visualizations here, but it does not have an off-road gear reduction. That's where the Velar is not set to hard off-roading. But you can also use this one here differently. You can always click that, for example, and that is useful either when you want to have the climate. I would have that one as a standard function right there. When you then turn the wheel, you can make it warmer or colder, click it once more, and then it jumps usually to the, let me start the engine, then it's working here. Then I'm clicking it, and then it jumps to the seat heating and seat cooling. And finally, someone has realized that also with fabric or Alcantara or microfiber or whatever seats, not only with leather seats, you can also have a seat cooling, and it's a really effective run, super strong. And also seat heating if you turn it to the other side. All two ways, by the way, here on the right side the vents, or also the temperature then for the passenger side, and the seat heating or seat cooling. So that's a very interesting system. It's placed really much below there. Not sure how you can see it actually while driving. When you have this one here activated, you also have a visualization of when the seats are heated or being cooled. And when you click those separate buttons right there, the touch, then you can only activate one zone, for example, if you want to. But I think it's not possible to have a cool back and a warm bottom or something like that. You cannot mix that. And here you can also activate the seat massage, also in different strength, and it's really powerful going all the ways. I really like it. Sometimes I feel just sitting in the car and activating that. And this one here at vehicle, you can pick the off-road driving modes again. Pretty spectacular, this surrounding here, is it? Moving a little further down, interesting, the Land Rover logo, you can click it and then the top or the front cup holder opens, also adaptive. Nice solution. Then this driving selector, you can, going like this, the sport mode, I will explain later, press it down and turning, and then again reverse again. I can also show you the rear view camera soon, and then here another, for example, spot 2 for the garage beeper and another cup holder. And there it is. When you put in reverse gear, you have the rear view camera with a good resolution and also this fake drone view from above. I just sometimes feel that the front sensor is reacting a little bit too late sometimes. But overall, I think it's a good system. You can also have that one here centrally. You can then choose the individual cameras. For example, take a look at the alloy left, that you do not damage it. There again. Or, for example, the view to the front. By the way, on camera, this surface looks weird. This has to do that the camera cannot really see the very fine structure that well like the human eye, or maybe sees it too well. So this looks perfectly normal, like fabric, gray fabric cloth. Same effects on, when some shirts from moderators. Here, this one is two split, really fixedly attached, and below that, two USB ports. You can put your phone there, for example, for the in-control apps, but seriously, I would just use Bluetooth connection for your smartphone here. What about the rear compartment? Well, as a seat as I would be driving, for a tall driver, there's still some knee room left. Considering the length of the vehicle, and that's the SUV, it's not the best package. So no problem with 4 adults, but I would have expected to have a little bit more leg room here, I have to admit. Headroom is no problem at all. I mean, it's a Range Rover, it should have enough headroom. And still it's a spacious feeling here somewhat, but not considering the length of the vehicle still. Interesting that I can adjust the back part of the seat electronically. So with this button, which is again taken over from the Jaguar XK convertible roof had that button, and that one was even carried over from the Ford Mondeo ones, this button. The window lever of Ford Mondeo. Isn't that still a funny fact? History of Jaguar Land Rover. So you can make it a little bit steeper for a more upright seating position here. I like that. So you're flexible also for that. Same great design also for the rear seats. Pure luxury, but still sustainable. And you can flip the seats in a 2/3, 1/3 split. You can also show that from the rear soon. And then there's this middle armrest with cup holders. You also have vents, of course, for the rear passengers, and also 2 more USB supplies. So what about the loading area? Well, it is really high, so you can put things in and out very easily. And you also have the full replacement tire here. Well, nice in off-road situations, and some really like to have that. But then the disadvantage is, it is so limited in a height for an SUV, and it's so narrow. So the trunk is actually the biggest downside of this vehicle. Also, this cover here is like not really good for a premium vehicle. It can go out of the rails, so that should have been done better. You can, however, flip the seats. When you have both activated here, they also go back. Then you can load things through. However, you can see this part is so high that it even goes a step down then again to the seats. Wow, you can really push that diesel here. So it's a pretty powerful one, and welcome to the driving part of the Range Rover Velar. 6.5 seconds is the acceleration to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. The D300, 3-liter V6. And the most powerful diesel available here, and for sure you can also live with a smaller engine. This one here gives you a lot of sovereignty. For example, here when I'm driving just 80 and then lost a little notch on the throttle and so flawlessly at 100 again, even without noticing it. You have to be careful for that, for sure. By the way, there's the digital dashboard there, or digital displays. I have the feeling it's not really fast, and we've realized that with other Range Rover or Land Rover models already so far. It really seems like the analog gauges you have usually are more accurate and faster. So those ones here, the digital ones, indeed lag a little bit behind. Here in the motorway, of course, it's a very suitable vehicle because you sit high, have this command driving position like in the Range Rover. However, being on this aluminum platform, together with the F-Pace, this one here is also lighter than the bigger brothers. It's not that much smaller in length as we told you earlier, but it really feels lighter when driving. You still get this typical Range Rover feeling with sitting high above the road and have this so-called command drive. But still, you get a little sportier notch and not this ship-alike feeling you, for example, get with a Discovery, Range Rover Sport, and with a Range Rover. And depending on what you like, you know, you can then pick your preference. I'm at the moment, by the way, in the Sport mode. That gives me the possibility to turn the gears up a little bit higher. I can also go back to the D mode. It gives a little bit more calmness in the ride, shifts the gear up earlier, and it's also a little bit better for the fuel consumption, which in the mix all around will be at about 10 liters on 100 kilometers. If you drive calm, you can also score about 9. That's also possible, but in general, this diesel does consume a lot, and Jaguar Land Rover are not really famous, same with Ford, you know, for low consumption engines. So that's maybe something they could still improve. Well, the visibility is to some extent good because you have these upright windows. Also the rear is actually fine. Of course, some other older Land Rover models have a little bit better visibility. At this one is also with a design focus, but you can surely live with that. Yeah, I think that's quite fine. The turning indicator signal is a little bit weird, isn't it? You know, it sounds a little bit. I think it sounds a little bit cheap, and it doesn't really fit because everything you see here also while driving is so superbly done and refined, pure luxury feeling elements. And then you get this strange sound from the turning indicator. We sometimes have that with vehicles. Here I would prefer a more sonorous, calmer indicator sound that really fits the character of the vehicle too. We also have a little bit of rain here at the moment, and even better to test the sound insulation because it is indeed really silent in here. So also one of the features that has to be guaranteed. We will soon again test it at a little higher speed, but already the first part on the motorway was actually quite calm, so I really like that. And overall I like the approach because, you know, I really love driving the big Range Rovers, Range Sport, Discovery, Range Rover. If you're, by the way, interested in the differences, there was lately a feature from Utah, desert riding and stuff, and great off-road scenes also, where I also told you something about all the 3 big cars to compare. But this one here really feels as it is, lighter, little smaller, not that ship-alike, as I said, not in a negative way, because, for example, when I get the Range Rover or the Discovery, I want this bigger ship feeling. I want it to be very soft, air suspension-wise on the road and stuff. This one here standard comes with a normal suspension base. I have no experience with that, can't say. The first time I'm driving this car with this test vehicle here, and this one here is equipped with the optional air suspension. The problem, there will be no test vehicle in the world for the press without the air suspension. And the air suspension here is set up in a way that you still get the feeling of having the Range Rover, but it's not that softly tuned than with the bigger Land Rover or Range Rover. So, and I think that's maybe also a good decision, because it gives you a little bit more flexibility here. So when I'm doing some slalom, the steering seems to be a little bit more precise, less off-roadish. So with the bigger ones, you have more play in the steering, because that can help you in off-road situations. And here in the city, for example, also when I want to be a little bit more agile in driving, it helps me better when I have more precision in the steering wheel. So from the steering characteristics, leaving off-road beside, I think that's the best Range Rover steering feeling they have so far. As I said initially, with this vehicle, they did not think so much about the off-road customers, because probably no one will go off-road with this, at least not hard off-road with this vehicle. So we also do not have the option of an off-road gear reduction. With the air suspension, you are still somewhat off-road capable, because you can also, lower suspension or pump it up. It's the second time it drives over the red traffic light now. If police sees that, well, have a go. Yeah, I want to keep my driver's license. It's really important for you guys as well when I keep my driver's license, of course. And we can also accelerate better out of this traffic light here again. Well, I really liked the velour steering wheel. Wow, this microfiber steering wheel. It has a good grip also, winter both and summertime, with glove, without gloves. It's just cozy. And if someone now says again, which has been criticized sometimes, yeah, it would wear off faster. I mean, this car is, when you probably spec it, maybe 70,000-80,000 euros. Come on, you can spend 150 euros and get a new microfiber cover them if it really annoys you after 5 years. So I wouldn't care about that much. I would just care, that's just great feeling. Just in a demo, wow, how much sovereignty does this diesel have? So I'm not exactly a diesel fan, but this one here is so powerful and sovereign that it is also fun to drive it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. You don't have to say so much more about this diesel. Yeah, consumption is too high, but the power is definitely there. And the petrol engines will also consume a lot of fuel, so that's something they haven't really solved in a very good way yet. I really have a good driving feeling when, well, it's motorbike. Too bad it's raining. I'm also a two-wheel enthusiast, so I always feel for those who are driving in the rain. Let's test the adaptive cruise control. So, if it's built in here, yeah, it is. Yeah, you can see distance in the middle. It's an optional system. See, also the motorcycle is recognized. That's good, of course. Oh, the brakes make also a good impression, no problem. Next traffic light, and I want to show you as well. Wow. That is really a lot of fun to accelerate this diesel. Wow. And I'm gone, and I didn't even push it all the way through, so that was an easy exercise. Maybe you've already seen inside mirror, there's also blind spot monitor available. Does a good job preventing those accidents when cars are overtaking you. And now I'm driving 74, and it is pretty common in Germany to drive too fast and to ignore the speed limit. Well, now the first one's doing it. So you see the blind spot monitor there again. And when you remain the speed, I'm already driving 4 kilometers above the speed limit, which is basically the same speed in GPS. The tachometer always shows a little bit too much. But when you're keeping the right speed limit, you're often bullied. That's welcome to Germany. So now we're getting to the motorway again, and I can show you some more acceleration in the sport mode. You can always switch that around in the shifting lever when I'm doing like 70 to 100. Let's go. That's it. What you can also do, when you're in a D mode, you can always do that, on your own manually. So using the shifting pedals, shifting down, D6, 5, 4 even, then you're at a higher RPM and it can accelerate out better. You hold the right shifting pedal to go to the automatic mode again. This 8-speed automatic gearbox, traditionally delivered by ZF, German supplier, is really a very flawless one and probably still the best transmission there is on the market. Also pretty durable and stuff, so I really like it, and it's built in a lot of cars, especially in a lot of premium cars for sure. So one of the advantages of having a little sportier Range Rover like the Velar here, not only it feels a little bit smaller, a little bit more agile, is also more suitable for European roads, for example. Or if you don't want the biggest car, if you feel like, yeah, I really like a Range Rover Discovery or whatever, but somehow it's too bulky to me, then this one is a good solution. And here also at higher speeds, it remains calm on the road, so it feels a little, you know, easier, less complicated in this way, driving-wise. I really like that because I love the typical Range Rover driving feeling, but the area where I live, where it's pretty rural as well, it's sometimes too big and a little bit too bulky, but this one could be a good solution, although it's already quite big. So now more dynamic change. You have still this tilting, typical Range Rover tilting, which you do want when you buy such a vehicle from the air suspension. A little bit more than with other vehicles who probably don't have the air suspension, but again it's a little bit reduced. So this one here already gives you dynamic driving fun, and for example when I drive a Range Rover I don't have so much dynamic driving fun. You can somewhat compare it with the Range Rover Sport, I guess. And thinking about the Jaguar F-Pace, well, as the whole interior is so much more refined, also by driving it somehow gives you the impression it's a more refined car. And you can then again put them next to each other a little bit, but although I'm brand-wise more a Jaguar person, and I really love the Jaguar design and stuff, when driving this one and driving the F-Pace, I think I would rather end up with this one. Somehow it feels like it's more finely tuned. I can't really say specific elements, it's just the general impression of it. Okay, I'll leave the turning indicator aside, but I mentioned that that's so far, I guess. So let's try again the adaptive cruise control at lower speeds. The buttons here on the steering wheel are also quite pleasing. That is also relaxing, so I think this car really offers a good compromise between relaxing and somewhat sporty driving, but not the sportiest. So from a scale from comfort to sporty, it's still more to the comfortable side for sure. Let's run into some potholes. Yeah, very well evened out. The air suspension is a dream for sure. It is one of the options which is surely worth to go for, because when you run through some potholes or some waves, it's always like a little bit on a flying carpet. Air suspension is evening it out. I always say, as when an air suspension is breaking down, it can be expensive to repair it. When you lease the vehicle, go for the air suspension anyway. You don't care after 2 or 3 years. If you want to keep a car for 10 years and have problems with repair cost, then maybe leave it out. But then again, this car is already very expensive. But driving-wise, it surely belongs also to the most pleasing SUVs I've driven so far. So really well done. And now to our conclusion here today, Range Rover Velar. Well, from the exterior, I think one of the most beautiful cars they have at the moment. Very modernly designed, such a flat design, the flattest Range Rover so far. Yes, on the coast of some off-road capabilities, no off-road gear reduction, but this is really targeting at the customer group which is not going really hard off-road. I think that's pretty much okay then. It's not too long, and I was wondering at first, you know, similar in the F-Pace, similar with the Range Rover Sport, But then again, you know, with the new chassis and stuff, and a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, it drives also lighter. It's a little bit more fun to drive, but still you have this upright seating position with the command drive of the Range Rover, a car that is more suitable when the very big Range Rovers, for example, are too big for you or too big for the feeling you want to have inside. And of course, the new interior concept. Base seats, at least in most markets, have also this textile leatherette mix, very well done. And also then the inside here with the test we have today with the Quartz special premium textile package. This is the new definition they have for the luxury vehicles, that they want to be also more sustainable, a really crucial point and the most important one to me. And this is indeed one of the vehicles where I have to say, I really want to keep it. Yeah, okay, maybe an alternative drivetrain to make it even more eco-friendly then, although it is a big SUV, maybe CNG or full electric or whatever. But this one really, dear Santa, would be quite nice. What do you think? Do you really like it? Tell me your opinion in the comments, let's discuss it, and also join us next time.